From a jaw-dropping catch
at the wall, at the track, jumps
to a perfect game.
Grounded to third.
And from a new record to a play we've never seen before.
home. Here's the throw from Piscotty to home.
These are the kind of plays that happen once in a million, and that's why baseball is so great. Let's start with the one and only Shohei Ohtani. On July 27, 2023, Ohtani took his magic to the next level. Angels played a doubleheader against Tigers, and the Japanese sensation was the starting pitcher for the first game. He tossed an 8-strikeout and 111 pitches shutout to secure the win. Astonishing performance.
The dude was 3 for 3 against Shohei, gets him on a punch-out at 99-mile-an-hour.
But of course, this wasn't enough for him. For the second game, he was the designated hitter, and he marveled everyone by smashing a couple of homers in the first 4 innings, completing the best individual performance in a single day in MLB history. Just imagine 9 scoreless innings, 8 strikeouts, 111 pitches, a win, and 2 home runs, all in the same day.
37th.
Have a day, Shohei. That was truly mind-blowing, but we can't forget when a runner made the entire defense look ridiculous. El Mago indeed. Javi Baez is known as El Mago for a very good reason. On May 27, 2021, the Cubs player made a mockery of the Pittsburgh Pirates with a base-running performance worthy of the Hall of Fame. With a lot of smarts and a touch of cunning, the infielder took advantage of Will Craig, Pittsburgh's first baseman, seemingly forgetting the rules of the game. With 2 outs on the board, Baez hit a line drive to shortstop. The shortstop threw to first, and the throw was slightly off, causing Craig to have to come off the bag. The play seemed like a sure out, as he just had to tag Baez to end the inning.
Oh my goodness. Wow, you gotta be kidding.
Now, talking about one in a million moments, we're sure you'll remember the next moment, the big unit and the bird incident. Randy Johnson is undeniably one of the best pitchers ever in Major League Baseball, and he's certainly one of the most intimidating too. However, this most viral moment was one of those unfortunate coincidences that are impossible to replicate.
Into to Larkin. Struck him out. Just
It happened on May 27, 2001 in a spring training game between the D-backs and the Giants, and the video of that moment became one of the most famous in baseball history. The big unit winds up for the next pitch and throws one of his famous fastballs. Suddenly, that's being in the wrong place at the worst possible moment. But it's not always the case. Our next player found himself in a rarely seen position and made the most of it. Fernando Tatis romance with grand slams. We have to go back to April 23, 1999, the day Fernando Tatis secured his place in history. During a game between the Cardinals and the Dodgers, he pulled off a feat that remains unmatched and that will never be surpassed. The Cardinals defeated the Dodgers 12-5, but the magic happened during the 3rd inning. The first 3 Cardinals batters loaded the bases with 2 singles and a hit batter. Tatis stepped up to the plate and sent the ball into the left field for a grand slam.
Fastball, and it's a grand slam.
Up to this point, everything seemed normal. However, the Cardinals players continued to hit pitches from Chan-Ho Park, the Dodgers pitcher. Several minutes later, Tatis stepped up to the plate again in the same inning, and once more, he found the bases loaded. The rest is history.
Tatis, swing and a long one. There it is, folks.
We can't make that up, just like we can't make up the following moment. Vandermeer and the consecutive no-nos. We all know that a no-hitter is indeed a highly improbable feat, right? Now can you imagine a pitcher throwing not 1, but 2 consecutive no-hitters? That's exactly what Johnny Vandermeer accomplished in 1938. On June 11th, the Cincinnati Reds pitcher faced off against the Boston Bees, now the Atlanta Braves. With 101 pitches and 4 strikeouts, he pulled off a no-hitter. Without a doubt, a performance to remember.
Here's the pitch from Force to Boa.
4 days later, on June 15th, he took the mound again, this time against the Brooklyn Dodgers. With 7 strikeouts and just 94 pitches, he repeated the feat, achieving back-to-back no-hitters. You can bet we won't see anything like that again.
Consecutive no-hit games. On a June afternoon, he shut out Boston.
Now, talking about unlikely events, do you remember Big Sexy? The great bat of Big Sexy. We know pitchers are generally bad with the bat, except for Ohtani, of course, and Bartolo Colon was especially poor with the lumber. With that in mind, we come to May 7, 2016. The Mets faced the Padres, and the veteran Big Sexy was on the mound for the New Yorkers. By then, Colon was 42 years old, and retirement was looming, but the charismatic pitcher had saved one of his last tricks. In the second inning, inning against James Shields, Colon sent the ball into the second deck of left field. Not even his teammates could believe what had just happened.
Looking for his first hit of the year. He drives one deep left.
We seriously doubt anyone will top his record as the oldest player to ever hit his first home run. But not everything has to be so serious. How about the following story? Valentine's disguise. Let's go back to June 9th, 1999. The Mets and the Blue Jays are in the middle of a nail-biting extra inning game. In the 12th inning, tied at 3 runs apiece after a controversial call, Valentine stormed out of the dugout furious to give the umpires a piece of his mind. Moments later, the Mets manager gets ejected from the field.
Piazza's throw. Stolen base, number 21 for Shannon Stewart.
The game goes on, and a little while later, someone different appears in the Mets dugout. Oh yeah, it's Mr. Bobby Valentine, dressed up in classic Groucho Marx style. Sunglasses, a fake mustache, and even a wig to conceal his identity. Obviously, the commentators couldn't hold back their laughter, and the manager was busted, not without leaving behind one of the best moments for the history books.
An attempt to protect the base runner.
Let's see if he crashed something. You can make kind.
Sometimes a funny moment is just what you need, so the next play is perfect for that. A home run with a little bit of assistance. Jose Canseco was a hell of a player. He won the Rookie of the Year award, an MVP, and racked 462 home runs in his career. But Canseco was also the main protagonist of one of the most memorable one-in-a-million moments. Let's go to May 26, 1993. That day, the Cleveland Indians faced the Texas Rangers. At bat was Carlos Martinez, and we can say that he hit the weirdest home run of his career.
Back to the track, look it up. It is off his head.
That must have hurt, but not as much as what happened to Stephen Piscotty. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Is this really happening? Imagine getting hit by a baseball at over 90 miles per hour. It's probably brutally painful. Now picture being hit not once, not twice, but 3 times in the same inning. That's some 1 in a million bad luck, and it's exactly what happened to Stephen Piscotty on April 4th, 2017. With Piscotty at the plate, a wild pitch from the pitcher ended up hitting him on the left arm.
Now Piscotty. And now he's hit by...
Up to this point, everything was normal. Piscotty advanced to first base, and the game continued. Painful, but normal. Moments later, the Cubs pitcher once again threw a wild pitch. Piscotty, now on first base, seized the opportunity to advance to second. The catcher made a throw attempting to tag him out, but his throw ended up hitting the runner again, this time on the back.
Piscotty to second, and he's hit again.
At this point, it was already a pretty surprising coincidence, but there was even more to come. The next batter, Colton Wong, hit a slow grounder to the infield, which couldn't be controlled in the first attempt by the Cubs infielders. Piscotty tried to score from second, so the defensive players threw to home.
Little chopper slowly hit right side. Wong may beat it out.
Now, if we talk about unique moments, the next moment is a classic. Is that Superman? No, it's not Superman. It's just Chris Coghlan doing whatever it takes to score a run. Let's rewind to April 25th, 2017, when the Blue Jays faced off against the St. Louis Cardinals. With the game tied at 2 runs in the 7th inning, Coghlan was on first base, and his teammate Kevin Pillar was at bat. Pillar smacked a deep triple, and Coghlan decided to go for the run. The outfielder's throw was spot on, reaching Yadier Molina's glove in time, but Coghlan was determined to score.
Throw from Piscotty to home plate, and Molina.
That's one way to score, although perhaps Randy Arozarena has something else in mind. Stealing home in October? A home plate steal is one of the most thrilling plays we can witness, even though it's becoming rarer. Now, can you imagine a home plate steal in October? In Game 1 of the Division Series? Well, that's exactly what Randy Arozarena did on October 7, 2017. It's the 7th inning, and by this point, Arozarena had already hit a home run, so his confidence was through the roof. The opposing pitcher was Josh Taylor, and without thinking twice, Arozarena made the daring decision to go for a suicide steal at home. Postseason is a magical time where strange things happen. By the way, do you remember the name Kirk Gibson? In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible happened. On October 15, 1988, the Dodgers and the Athletics faced off in Game 1 of the World Series. We're in the bottom of the 9th inning, 2 outs and a runner on second. Dodgers trailing 4-3, and they've got one last shot at bat. In the championship series, Kirk Gibson had a string of injuries that practically kept him from running or even walking comfortably. Nevertheless, Tom Tommy Lasorda, the Dodgers manager, decided to send him up to bat in that final opportunity. To add a little bit of drama, standing against them was Dennis Eckersley, the best reliever of the year who hadn't allowed a home run against him in over 2 months. What happens next is the reason we're all in love with this sport, and what better way to relive it than with the original narration from Vince Scully.
High fly ball into right.
That was a very emotional moment. However, we cannot forget what happened in Detroit in 2010. The 28 outs perfect game. Yeah, it's not a typo. We're talking about an almost perfect game, one of the biggest mistakes that has happened in the history of MLB. Let's go back to June 2nd, 2010. That day became historic due to an infamous error committed by Jim Joyce, one of the most experienced umpires. Armando Galarraga was having the best performance of his career. Every batter he faced, he retired. He said goodbye to Mark Grudzielanek with a fly to center field, but also Mike Redman with a ground out to shortstop. Only 1 out was missing to complete the 21st perfect game in MLB history. Then, Jason Donald hit a ground ball to first base. Miguel Cabrera fielded the ball and threw to first, where Galarraga himself had arrived to cover. The ball arrived on time and it was undoubtedly an out, although Jim Joyce saw something different.
Ground ball, right side. Cabrera will cut it off. Galarraga.
Years later, Galarraga and Joyce co-authored a book titled Nobody's Perfect, alluding to that play. But let's now talk about a game that inspired one of the most peculiar documentaries in baseball history. I'm high as a Georgia pine. In mid-June 1970, in Doc Ellis's own words, he got confused about the date of his next pitching start with the team. Thinking he still had a couple of days off, he decided to have a small party involving some prohibitive substances, LSD to be specific. To his surprise, the next day he was informed that he was scheduled to pitch that very day. With no other choice, he showed up at the stadium still under the influence of the substances, and he tried to give it his best. The result? The most improbable no-hitter in history. Doc Ellis issued 8 walks, but somehow found a way not to allow a single hit over the course of 9 innings. They even made a documentary about it.
Yeah, I was out there, high as a Georgia pine.
Pretty crazy, right? But not as much as what happened to one of the most loyal Cubs fans in history. He even had to change his place of residence. Steve Bartman incident. Fast forward to 2003. That year, the Chicago Cubs had a strong team and were competing in the National League Championship Series against the Florida Marlins. After the first 5 games, Chicago had a 3-2 lead, so they were just 1 win away from reaching the World Series. After 7 innings, Chicago had a 3-0 lead, just 6 outs away from reaching the World Series. Now with the Marlins at bat, we come to the historic moment. Runner on second and 1 out. Luis Castillo hits a fly ball into foul territory. Moises Alou races to make the out, but the ball is very close to the stands. At that moment, Steve Bartman, a Cubs fan, interferes with the play, preventing the out and sparking the fury of the Cubs. Cameras in the stadium capture the moment and replay it on screens, immortalizing Bartman's image deflecting the ball. This was a pivotal moment in the game. The Marlins scored 8 runs in the last 2 innings and would go on to win the series, once again eliminating the Cubs.
This is an easy play. You're just going to second to get 1 out.
Long story short, Bartman became the most hated man in the state. Years later, in an interview, he confessed that he even had to change his place of residence because he received multiple death threats. The greatest comeback. On December 26, 1919, the Red Sox made one of the most controversial decisions in history. They traded Babe Ruth, sending him to the Yankees. From that moment on, and for 84 seasons, the Red Sox didn't win another World Series, while the Yankees racked up 26 titles during those years. In 2004, the Red Sox and Yankees faced off in the American League Championship Series. The Yankees won the first 3 games and seemed destined for the title. Never before in any professional sport had a team come back from an 0-3 deficit in the best-of-7 series. No doubt a 1 in a million comeback. David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, Johnny Damon, Jason Varitek, Kevin Youkilis, Curt Schilling and company did the impossible. They won 4 games in a row, eliminating the Yankees. And made it to the World Series, where they swept the Cardinals in 4 games to put an end to the curse.
Red Sox fans have longed to hear it. The Boston...
Absolutely impressive. Let's wrap up with one of those coincidences that are rarely seen in a stadium. Luckiest fan on earth. We all dream of being lucky enough to catch a home run ball or even a foul ball. Some of us have been hundreds of times and haven't achieved it. Now, can you imagine catching 2 balls consecutively in the same game? That would be quite impressive, right?
1 game.
watched the video. I'm sure Rudy Harmon.
Certainly, this is a unique day in his life, but now let's see one of the biggest coincidences in history. Hello, goodbye. If we mention the name John Miller, we're pretty sure none of you will remember him. His career went by without much fanfare, as he only played 36 games over 2 seasons, 1966 with the Dodgers and 1969 with the Yankees. However, in those 36 games, Miller left a 1 in a million stat. We could almost bet it will never happen again. Many players have hit a home run in their first at-bat, and quite a few have ended their careers with a homer in their final official at-bat. However, only 2 players have achieved both feats, John Miller and Paul Gillespie. Now, what makes John Miller's case so special? Easy. Those 2 homers were the only ones in his entire career.
Albert Bell with a monster shot in center. That is hammered. Left field.
Baseball is a sport where, to quote Vince Scully, day in and day out, the impossible can happen. At this point, haven't you seen this other crazy MLB moment yet? Subscribe quickly, I wouldn't miss it.